Long ago, near the delta of the mighty Nile River, a magical land came to life. My name is Leia, and this is ancient Egypt. I'm 9 years old and in Miss K's class at Christchurch Hanham Primary in Bristol. Recently, I took a trip to London's British Museum to see their large collection of Egyptian artifacts. Ancient Egypt was an amazing civilization that started over 5,000 years ago along the Nile River. They had kings called pharaohs who ruled like living gods. They built giant pyramids to guard their treasures, and they communicated using a language of pictures that might just have been lost forever. Ancient Egypt began around 3100 BCE and had three main periods: the Old Kingdom, known for pyramid building; the Middle Kingdom, a time of stability and literature; and the New Kingdom, the era of empire building and famous pharaohs. After that came the late period, ending with Persian and Greek conquests. The Nile River was very important to the development of Egypt. It's 4,100 miles long, the longest river in the world, which created good soil for farming in the delta, where the river meets the sea. This is unusual for the African desert. Egyptians grew crops like wheat, barley, flax, and papyrus. At one point there were 5 million people living in Egypt. That's a lot for ancient times. Music was everywhere. Ancient Egyptians danced and played harps, flutes, drums, and rattles at parties and temples. Pharaohs were at the top of the society's social rankings, followed by priests, scribes, craftsmen, farmers, and slaves. Egyptians traded with neighbors for gold, incense, and timber. They were pioneers in math, using geometry for building, medicine with early surgeries, and astronomy, aligning structures with stars. Their calendar had 365 days, close to ours. This civilization influenced the world, from art to religion. Pharaohs were the kings and queens of ancient Egypt. They were divine rulers, as close to being gods as they were to people. They controlled the army, the economy, and all the religion. Ancient Egypt lasted a long time, so there were a lot of pharaohs, more than 170. A few of the most famous ones today were Ramses the Great, Tutankhamun, and Cleopatra. Ramses II, or Ramses the Great, reigned from 1279 to 1213 BCE during the New Kingdom. He was one of the longest ruling pharaohs and a military genius. He led his army in the Battle of Kadesh, the largest chariot battle ever, with over 5,000 chariots. He signed the world's first known peace treaty. Ramses built massive monuments, like temples carved into cliffs, and he had over 200 wives and 100 children. One of the most famous pharaohs today is King Tut, thankfully short for Tutankhamun. He became a pharaoh at 8 or 9 years old. That's like if I became a queen today. He didn't live long, 18 or 19. People aren't sure, but he probably died from a disease called malaria or a chariot accident. His tomb wasn't discovered until 1922 in the Valley of the Kings. Like most tombs, it had been robbed, but most of the 5,000 objects in the tomb were still there. It took 8 years to remove all the artifacts and catalogue them. The size of the tomb and his gold mask made him famous. Cleopatra VII wasn't the first woman pharaoh. That was Hatshepsut. But she was the last of all of them. She inherited the throne from her father and was pharaoh from 51 to 30 BCE. She was Greek but embraced Egyptian culture and language. Intelligent and strategic, she allied with Romans, Julius Caesar, and Mark Antony to maintain power, even having children with them. Her reign and her life ended when Rome finally conquered Egypt. When Pharaoh's journey ended, priests turned them into mummies, wrapped tight in linen, with spells to protect their spirit in the afterlife. Egyptians believed that when you died, you went to another world. They worked very hard to get ready for it. They thought you needed a preserved body to reunite with a person's soul, and mummification was an important part of their culture. Making a mummy took 70 days. They didn't think that the brain was important, and they turned it into liquid, drained it out the nose, and discarded it with the other bodily fluids. Embalmers removed the liver, lungs, stomach, and intestines, and preserved them in jars. They left the heart in the body. They dried the body with salt and wrapped it in linen bandages. Then they put it in a fancy coffin. Mummies teach us about health, religion, and daily life. They're a window to the past. Egyptians didn't have our alphabet. Hieroglyphics were the Egyptians' writing system, using over 700 symbols, pictures of birds, eyes, and snakes that represented ideas, sounds, or objects. It evolved from pictographs around 3200 BCE and was used for religious texts, monuments, and records. Scribes, an elite class, trained for years to master it, writing from right to left or top to bottom. Knowledge of hieroglyphs was lost after 394 CE, and for a long time, no one knew what they meant. That's where the Rosetta Stone comes in. Discovered in 1799 in the Nile Delta, it is a very heavy slab that had writing in 3 languages: hieroglyphs, Demotic Egyptian, and Greek, that gave us a secret code to unlock the hieroglyphs. The Rosetta Stone is in the British Museum in London and is one of the most famous objects in the world. Here I am taking a look. Man fears time. Time fears the pyramids. Pyramids were tombs for pharaohs and not built by aliens, like some conspiracies say. The pyramids are engineering marvels. For 3,000 years, they were the tallest man-made structures. The pharaoh, Khufu, built the Great Pyramid in Giza, which took 20,000 workers 20 years to build. Built around 2580 BCE, it used 2.3 million blocks. Each one weighs between 2.5 and 80 tons, totaling 6 million tons. It stood 481 feet tall, with its original limestone cap. Close to the Great Pyramid is the Sphinx. It is a 240-foot-long limestone statue with a lion's body and a pharaoh's head. Carved from bedrock, it represents royal power. Its nose was lost to erosion or vandalism. Papyrus was the first paper. The word paper comes from papyrus, made from a plant in Nile marshes. Stems were cut, peeled, sliced into strips, layered crosswise, hammered flat, and dried. Scrolls up to 100 feet long held medical texts and allowed for record keeping, literature, and administration. Without it, much knowledge would have been lost. The ancient Egyptians believed in hundreds of gods and goddesses. This is called being polytheistic, which just means many gods. Each god had a special job, like helping the Nile River flood or keeping people healthy. The Egyptians saw gods everywhere, in the river, the desert, the sky, and even in their own families. They wanted the gods to be happy, so the Nile would flood, bringing rich soil for crops, the sun would rise, and their families would stay safe. Ra was the sun god and king of the gods. Every morning he sailed across the sky in his boat. At night he traveled through the underworld. Egyptians thought the sun's warmth and light came straight from Ra. Isis was a loving mother goddess and queen of magic. She could heal people and protect children. She put her husband, Osiris, back together after he was hurt. Osiris, god of the afterlife and the dead, was also in charge of farming and the green plants that grew after the Nile flooded. Horus was the falcon-headed god of the sky. Pharaohs believed they were the living version of Horus on earth. And Anubis was the jackal-headed god who helped with mummies and guided dead people to the next world, weighed their hearts to see if they had been good. Egyptians also loved cats. Cats were sacred because they protected their grain from mice. Some cats were even mummified like people. So, this was ancient Egypt, full of pyramids, mummies, treasure, and super smart people who did things we still talk about today. I'm Leia, and I hope you enjoyed my video. Bye!